my darling. Oh, my darling, are you having another nightmare?
No,
There, sweetheart.
Somebody hit me.
When Doris Day, the beloved Hollywood icon, passed away at 97, the heartbreaking truth about her life stunned the world. Her grandson, Ryan Melcher, didn't hear the news through family, but through Facebook like a stranger. How could America's sweetheart, known for her radiant smile and timeless voice, leave behind such a fractured legacy? Behind the musical hits, Oscar nominations, and charming comedies lay a hidden world of heartbreak. A $22 million betrayal by someone she trusted most, abusive marriages that left her scarred, and a life isolated behind the walls of her Carmel mansion. The woman who sang Secret Love endured devastating secrets of her own. But the story of Doris Day's fractured legacy begins with a shocking revelation. Imagine discovering the death of your grandmother, not through family but through social media. For Ryan Melcher, Doris's only grandson, this was his reality. It wasn't the headlines or the outpouring of grief that stung the most. It was the 14 years of separation leading up to that moment. What drove them apart? Was it a family rift, a controlling business manager, or something deeper? At 41, Doris Day's grandson, Ryan, finally reveals what she kept hidden for decades. When Doris Day passed away on May 13, 2019, millions across the globe mourned the loss of one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. But for her only grandson, Ryan Melcher, the news wasn't broken by a caring family member or even a quiet phone call. He found out the same way the rest of the world did, through Facebook. Ryan's devastation wasn't merely about how he learned of her passing, it was about the 14 long, painful years that had kept him estranged from his grandmother. Doris Day, known for her warmth and kindness to animals and fans alike, had become a distant figure in Ryan's life. To him, she wasn't just a Hollywood legend, she was family. So how did it come to this? The estrangement began in 2004 when Ryan's father, Terry Melcher, Doris's only son, passed away from melanoma at the age of 62. Not long after Terry's death, Doris invited Ryan to dinner. He thought this was the beginning of a renewed connection, a chance to rebuild their bond in the aftermath of his father's untimely passing. But before he could even make it to her dinner table, everything changed. Ryan says he was contacted by Doris's business manager, Bob Bashara, who asked to meet him at the Cypress Inn, a Carmel hotel Doris co-owned. What was supposed to be a friendly invitation to reconnect with his grandmother quickly turned into something much darker. According to Ryan, Bashara questioned his motives for seeing Doris, asking bluntly, "Why do you want to see her?" Shocked by the coldness of the question, Ryan replied, "She's my grandmother and I haven't seen her in years." He was then told he wouldn't be allowed to visit her. The reason? Bashara allegedly cited Ryan's parents' divorce as the excuse for the rift. From that moment on, fences, both literal and figurative, seemed to go up between Doris and her grandson. Bashara became a gatekeeper, adding layers of security to Doris's Carmel home that made her increasingly unreachable. Ryan later admitted he regretted not doing more to reconnect, but the imposing boundaries, guards, and ever-watchful eye of Bashara made it nearly impossible. After Doris's death, Ryan shared his experience in a heartfelt Facebook post. He expressed his sorrow not only about losing her, but about the lost years they would never get back. "Could I have fought harder to reach her?" he wrote. "Probably, but the fences and guards made it clear where I stood in her life." The story didn't end with Ryan's Facebook post. Doris's publicist, Charlie Cullen Walters, pushed back on Ryan's claims. Walters said the family had tried several times to reconnect with Ryan, even inviting him to Doris's 90th birthday celebration in 2014. According to Walters, Ryan didn't respond. This created another layer of complexity in an already heart-wrenching story. Did Ryan distance himself willingly, or were there deeper misunderstandings at play? What's clear is that Doris Day's final years were as private as they were peaceful, or isolating, depending on who you ask. While she had once been America's darling, sharing her charm with millions, in the end, her inner circle grew smaller and smaller. For Ryan, Doris didn't just leave behind Hollywood memories, she left unanswered questions, a broken family bond, and fences, both real and metaphorical, that he never got to see beyond. But that's only the beginning of her story. The fractures in Doris's family were just one side of her secretive life. What caused this tight-knit Hollywood starlet to retreat so far into isolation? As we dig deeper, we'll uncover the sacrifices, betrayals, and heartbreaks that drove her to live behind closed gates. Stay tuned, because the next chapter only gets more shocking. Before becoming Hollywood royalty, Doris Day was just a girl from Cincinnati, Ohio, born on April 3, 1922, into a modest working-class household. Her father, William, was a music teacher, and her mother, Alma, managed the home. Yet even in these early years, life tested Doris. One of her brothers, Richard, passed away as an infant before she was born, an event that profoundly affected her family. More heartbreak followed when Doris's parents divorced, an unusual and stigmatized event at the time. Doris and her siblings were raised primarily by Alma, who struggled to make ends meet during the Great Depression. Despite these challenges, Doris showed incredible potential from a young age. At just 12 years old, she entered a contest where she managed to hold a handstand for over 3 hours, an act of pure determination. The prize, a set of free dance lessons, opened the door to her first big dream, becoming a professional dancer. Graceful and full of life, Doris was set on pursuing this career, believing it would allow her to escape the struggles of her childhood. Her dreams, however, came to an abrupt halt. At the age of 14, just before she was set to travel to Hollywood for dance opportunities, Doris was involved in a devastating car accident. A train collided with the vehicle she was in, crushing one of her legs so severely that doctors considered amputation. Her dreams of becoming a professional dancer were over. Doris endured months of painful surgeries and spent over a year recovering, bedridden and unable to walk. While she was physically confined, her spirit refused to give up. During this long and lonely recovery, Doris discovered something new: her voice. She would sing along to her favorite radio tunes, especially songs by jazz great Ella Fitzgerald. Her mother, Alma, noticing this hidden talent, took action by hiring a vocal coach, Grace Rain, who became an essential mentor in Doris's life. Grace recognized Doris's potential immediately, calling her the most gifted student I have ever taught. Soon enough, Doris was earning her first paychecks as a singer, performing at a small Chinese restaurant for just $5 a night. Not long after, she caught the attention of band leader Barney Rapp while singing in a nightclub. He offered her a position as his lead vocalist, but at only 15, Doris was too young to legally work in clubs that served alcohol. Quick-witted and eager, she lied about her age, claiming to be 18, a bold move that launched her professional career. It was Barney Rapp who encouraged Doris to change her last name. Kappelhoff was far too clunky for show business, he thought, so he suggested the sleek and memorable Doris Day, inspired by her performance of Day After Day. Doris wasn't immediately thrilled with the name, calling it too flashy, but she eventually relented. What could have been the end of her ambitions, the accident that shattered her childhood dreams, became the driving force for her future. Through sheer resilience, Doris turned her heartbreak into motivation, shifting from dancer to singer and carving out a path that would soon lead her to international stardom. Up next, we'll explore how that bold little girl from Cincinnati transformed into a rising star, setting the stage for her iconic Hollywood career. Doris Day's star began to rise in the late 1930s as she blossomed into one of the most extraordinary vocal talents of her time. After securing her first professional singing job with Barney Rapp's band, her career quickly gained momentum. By 1940, she had joined Les Brown and his Band of Renown, where her talent and determination truly began to shine. Joining Les Brown's band wasn't easy. Before her audition, Doris was consumed by fear and self-doubt, so much so that she almost didn't perform. But Les encouraged her to sing, and as soon as she performed Embraceable You, the entire band was blown away. She was just 18 when she joined, unaware that this partnership would launch her toward stardom. While touring with the band, Doris displayed her characteristic resilience and dedication. It was a nomadic life, filled with challenging schedules, but she thrived. Her defining moment came in 1945 when the band recorded Sentimental Journey, a song Doris felt deeply connected to. Initially, Les dismissed the ballad as outdated and unremarkable, but Doris believed in it so strongly that her conviction swayed him. Released during the final days of World War II, Sentimental Journey became an anthem for soldiers returning home, striking a universal emotional chord. The song sold over 1 million copies in its first year, propelling Doris into the national spotlight. Her rich, emotional voice resonated with listeners everywhere, earning her a devoted fan base. But this success came during a difficult time for Doris. as she received news that her brother Paul had died tragically in a car accident. Despite her heartbreak, Doris channeled her grief into her music, adding an authenticity to her performances that audiences adored. By 1947, Doris had outgrown her role as a band singer and signed a solo contract with Columbia Records. Her smooth transition into stardom brought her to the attention of Hollywood. At a party hosted by renowned songwriters Jules Stein and Sammy Cahn, Doris's voice caught the ear of director Michael Curtis. Doris, who had no acting experience, was cast as the lead in Romance on the High Seas, 1948. The film was an unexpected success, and Doris's natural charm captivated audiences, solidifying her transition from singer to actress. Her Hollywood journey had just begun, but the story behind the scenes would become far more complex. Up next, we delve into how Doris balanced megastardom with a turbulent personal life. In 1948, Doris transitioned into Hollywood with her film debut, Romance on the High Seas. Despite having no formal acting training, her natural charm made the movie a hit. Warner Brothers quickly signed her, and she became a reliable star in musicals, dramas, and comedies, proving she could adapt to any role Hollywood gave her. One of her boldest films was Calamity Jane from 1953, where she played a tough frontierswoman, a drastic departure from her usual girl-next-door roles. While filming, Doris performed her own stunts, breaking a rib in the process. The movie became a favorite and featured the hit song Secret Love, which won an Academy Award and further cemented her stardom. In 1955, Doris broke away from musicals with Love Me or Leave Me, a biographical drama about singer Ruth Etting's abusive relationship. The role showcased her emotional depth, earning her critical acclaim. Some believe she deserved an Oscar nomination for the film, which became one of her biggest commercial successes. Her career reached another peak in 1959 with Pillow Talk, her first romantic comedy with Rock Hudson. The movie was a smash hit, earning her an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. It marked the beginning of a successful partnership with Hudson, with whom she went on to star in Lover Come Back, 1961, and Send Me No Flowers, 1964. Their on-screen chemistry was a major draw for audiences, making each film a box office success. Meanwhile, Doris also exercised increasing control over her career. She insisted on choosing her own material for both music and film, a bold move for any actress at the time. Her ability to blend charm, comedy, and emotional depth made her one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. By the early 1960s, Doris was the highest-paid actress in America, and her films regularly earned millions at the box office. Yet, underneath her success, Doris struggled with the pressure of maintaining her America's sweetheart image. While her career flourished, her personal life grew increasingly turbulent. Up next, we'll explore the betrayals and heartbreaks that would shake her life to its foundation. While Doris built an image of the perfect, cheerful star on screen, her personal life told a much darker story of heartbreak and betrayal. Her relationships, particularly her marriages, were fraught with instability and pain, leaving lasting scars that she rarely spoke about publicly. Her first marriage at just 17 was to Al Jordan, a trombonist in one of the bands she worked with. Against her mother's warnings, Doris wed him, hoping for a loving partnership. Instead, the marriage became a nightmare. Jordan was violently abusive, often jealous and controlling. His temper escalated during Doris's pregnancy, and he even attempted to force her into an illegal abortion. Doris's quick thinking likely saved her life one terrifying night when her husband brought a gun, threatening to kill both her and their unborn son, Terry. Shortly after Terry's birth in 1942, Doris fled the marriage, recognizing that she had to protect both herself and her child. Her second marriage to saxophonist George Weidler seemed promising initially. They married in 1946, but Weidler couldn't handle Doris's rising fame. He felt intimidated by her growing success as a singer and left her just 8 months into their marriage, stating that he didn't want to be overshadowed by her stardom. Doris later admitted this rejection was deeply painful, as she had hoped this marriage might bring some stability into her life. Her third marriage to Martin Melcher lasted 17 years, but turned out to be the most devastating. Melcher, who became her manager, controlled every aspect of Doris's financial and professional life. At first, their partnership seemed strong, but after his sudden death in 1968, Doris discovered the shocking extent of his betrayal. Melcher and his business partner Jerome Rosenthal had mismanaged her finances so disastrously that her entire $20 million fortune had vanished overnight. Even worse, Melcher had secretly signed Doris into a television deal, The Doris Day Show, without consulting her. The betrayal forced Doris to take on a show she didn't want just to pay off the $500,000 of debt Melcher had left her in. Feeling betrayed and exhausted, Doris sued Rosenthal and eventually won a $22 million settlement in 1974. However, due to legal complications, she received only a fraction of the amount. These traumatic events made Doris more private as the years went on. Her personal life, filled with unstable relationships and financial ruin, stood in stark contrast to the image of perfection her audience believed. Even her final years were marked by family estrangement and unresolved tension with her grandson after the death of her son, Terry. The betrayals Doris endured throughout her life, the abusive marriages, financial ruin, and family estrangement left more than just emotional scars. Beneath her radiant smile and bubbly on-screen persona, Doris wrestled with an even deeper, more private struggle: her mental health. For years, she battled crippling anxiety and depression, hidden behind the America's sweetheart image that Hollywood demanded she maintain. Even at the peak of her fame in the 1950s, her internal struggles began to surface. Doris was under immense pressure to deliver flawless performances while maintaining her public image as wholesome and cheerful. Behind the scenes, however, she experienced panic attacks and overwhelming feelings of inadequacy. Mental health was a taboo subject in those days, especially for a public figure like Doris. Fearing the stigma, she didn't seek help and instead turned to alcohol to numb her anxiety, a choice that offered temporary relief but worsened her long-term emotional strain. In 1952, while filming I'll See You in My Dreams, her mental health took a serious toll. After performing an emotionally heavy scene, Doris became so shaken she believed she was suffering from a heart condition. Although doctors assured her she was physically well, the stress lingered. By 1954, these emotional burdens reached their peak during the production of Young at Heart. Doris frequently broke down in tears during filming. Frank Sinatra, who co-starred with her, reportedly comforted her after her breakdowns, but the underlying issues remained unresolved. For the next 2 decades, Doris suffered largely in silence. This inner turmoil persisted through her personal tragedies, including Martin Melcher's betrayal. By the time Doris discovered her financial ruin in 1968, the stress had compounded to such an extent that she hit one of the lowest points of her life. It wasn't until 1971, at the age of nearly 50, that she finally sought professional help. Doris began 4 years of therapy to confront her anxiety and depression head-on. Through therapy, she found relief and a greater sense of inner peace. She later admitted that this decision was transformative, marking the first time she allowed herself to address the weight she had been carrying for so long. Her eventual decision to leave Hollywood and build a quiet life in Carmel, California, was motivated not only by her disgust with the betrayal she endured in the industry, but also by a need to protect her mental well-being. She built a sanctuary for herself, surrounded by the healing presence of animals. Doris never openly admitted the full extent of her battles during her peak years, but fans later learned how much turmoil had been hiding under the surface of her cheerful exterior. Her story serves as a powerful reminder: even someone who embodied happiness for millions could be silently struggling behind closed doors. After decades in the spotlight, Doris Day made a quiet yet deliberate retreat from Hollywood in the early 1970s. Following the betrayal by her late husband, Martin Melcher, and her forced involvement in The Doris Day Show, she realized she no longer had the desire to remain in show business. Instead, she shifted her focus to something that had always brought her joy: animals. What began as a personal passion turned into a mission that would define the rest of her life. Doris's love for animals was evident from an early age. As a child, she adored her dog, Tiny, whose tragic death in a car accident left a lasting impression on her. This experience planted the seed for what would later grow into her lifelong dedication to animal welfare. Even during her Hollywood years, she showed a compassionate heart for animals. For instance, while filming The Man Who Knew Too Much in Morocco, Doris refused to continue working until proper food and care were provided for the animals on set. This act of protest resulted in the establishment of a feeding station for local animals, demonstrating her willingness to use her influence to advocate for their well-being. In 1978, Doris officially founded the Doris Day Pet Foundation, which focused on rescuing stray animals and finding them loving homes. The foundation addressed problems like overpopulation and neglect, and Doris even personally took in dozens of animals, caring for them at her ranch in Carmel, California. Her home became a haven for abandoned dogs and cats, with each animal given its own space and attention. At one point, she was said to be housing more than 30 dogs, each treated like a member of her family. Her work didn't stop at rescues. In 1987, Doris expanded her efforts by creating the Doris Day Animal League, a lobbying organization aimed at impacting legislation for animal protection. She used her public platform to advocate for spaying and neutering pets in order to combat overpopulation and reduce animal homelessness. One of her most notable contributions was the establishment of World Spay Day in 1995, an event that gained international attention and encouraged sterilization efforts in more than 70 countries. Doris's influence in animal welfare reached far beyond her personal efforts. She inspired countless others to contribute to the cause, raising awareness through public campaigns and fundraisers. Her approach wasn't just about immediate rescue, but creating systemic change through education, advocacy, and legislation. Though Doris largely avoided the public eye in her later years, her work with animals kept her fulfilled. Even as her health declined, she remained actively involved in the foundation, ensuring its success for generations to come. Doris's love of animals wasn't just a hobby. It was her way of giving back and finding a new purpose after Hollywood, proving that her legacy extended far beyond the silver screen. By the 1980s, Doris Day had entirely removed herself from Hollywood, opting for a life of quiet seclusion in Carmel, California. Her 11-acre ranch became her haven, where she surrounded herself with her greatest passion: animals. For someone who once dominated the silver screen, her later life stood in stark contrast to her years in the spotlight. Doris rarely made public appearances during this time. She turned down numerous high-profile invitations, including the Kennedy Center Honors and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. She also refused to travel or attend ceremonies, preferring instead the simplicity and privacy of her home. Locals in Carmel saw her as a down-to-earth neighbor, often running errands or walking her dogs in town, far removed from the glamorous star she once was. Her daily routine revolved around the animals she rescued. Doris's ranch housed as many as 30 dogs at a time, each of them treated like family. Incredibly, she even dedicated a separate kitchen for preparing their meals. Each rescue was given its own room and care, reflecting her deep commitment to animal welfare. Guests at her home were often surprised by her modesty. Doris famously served meals on paper plates and lived by simple means, despite her immense stardom and wealth. In 2011, Doris briefly returned to the public's attention when she released My Heart, a collection of previously unheard songs. Written in part by her late son, Terry Melcher, the album reached number 9 on the UK albums chart, making Doris, at age 89, the oldest artist to accomplish a top 10 album of new material. Though she rarely stepped into the spotlight by then, the success reminded the world of her enduring legacy. Doris became more isolated after Terry's death in 2004, focusing solely on her foundation and animals. Controversy surrounded her later years due to accusations from her grandson, Ryan Melcher, who claimed she had been isolated by her business manager, Bob Bashara. While some supported these claims, others maintained that Doris lived exactly how she wanted, private and entirely independent. When Doris passed away on May 13, 2019 at 97, she left behind a legacy far greater than her Hollywood career. Her later life may have been quiet, but her impact on animal welfare and her enduring love for compassion and kindness defined her final chapter. Doris Day's life was a tapestry of shining triumphs and quiet struggles. From her humble beginnings in Cincinnati to becoming one of Hollywood's brightest stars, Doris reinvented herself time and again, navigating tragedy, betrayal, and heartbreak along the way. Her name became synonymous with warmth, charm, and resilience, a beacon of hope during turbulent times. Her professional accomplishments are extraordinary. 39 films, multiple chart-topping hits, and iconic performances that rewrote the rules for women in Hollywood. Yet it was the life she built after fame, dedicating herself to animal welfare and leading a simple private existence that truly defined her. Doris found purpose not in the glitz and glamour, but in compassion and kindness, leaving the world better than she found it. In the end, Doris Day's story is one of strength. While she entertained millions, her personal journey of overcoming pain and using her influence for positive change became her true legacy. Her lasting impact isn't just in her unforgettable songs or beloved films, but in the love and kindness she gave to those who needed it most, both human and animal. Doris once said, "I've never met an animal I didn't like, and I can't say the same about people." Perhaps it was this honesty, paired with her unwavering compassion, that made her so special. Doris Day will always remain an icon, not just of her time, but for generations to come.